I swear, sometimes it feels like the whole world is lined up, pointing fingers at me, waiting for me to make one wrong move so they can call me selfish. Maybe that's why the anger simmered so hot that night, the kind that rises slowly, like water just about to boil. I'm not the villain, I kept thinking. I'm just a woman who's barely lived. My name is Gabby, I'm 23, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I was breathing again, actually breathing. Not through painkillers or hospital sheets or a boyfriend hovering constantly, asking if I needed water, blankets, help. And God, I'm grateful for everything Anthony did during that year after my concussion. I am. But gratitude can turn into suffocation when it's wrapped around your ribs tight enough. I'd spent my entire early 20s either locked into a relationship or literally locked inside our tiny apartment while the world moved on without me. I used to stare through that one narrow window, watching other people laugh on the sidewalk below, imagining what it might feel like to be young and reckless and free. I'd scroll through photos of girls backpacking across Europe, drinking cheap wine on beaches, meeting strangers in places with names that sounded like poetry. And I'd wonder, when is it my turn? So when my doctor finally said the words, "You're healing beautifully," something inside me cracked open like sunlight through shutters. And the first thing I did was look at flights. 3 months, just me, a backpack, and Europe. The adventure I'd dreamed about during every lonely, aching night. Anthony supported it, at first. He smiled, told me I deserved it. Helped me look at hostels and train routes, even bookmarked places on Google Maps. It all felt so perfect. Until it didn't. I still remember the moment it shifted, the flicker of fear in his eyes when I said the thing I'd been turning over in my mind for weeks. We were making dinner, the soft pop of pasta boiling, the smell of garlic in the air, and I said it lightly, casually, as if I weren't about to set off an earthquake. What if we had an open relationship while I'm away? His entire body went still. The knife in his hand hung midair. And for a split second, I saw him as a stranger, a man who suddenly didn't understand me at all. His reaction was instant, like I'd slapped him. Maybe I shouldn't have rolled my eyes. Maybe I shouldn't have said, "It's not cheating if we agree to it," in that tone that always makes him feel small. But I did. Because I was desperate. Desperate for air. Desperate to live something other than the version of life I'd fallen into by accident. The argument stretched on for hours. Him calling it betrayal. Me calling it freedom. Him saying, "If you want to be single, then be single." Me insisting he was missing the point entirely. I wasn't trying to leave him. I wasn't. I just didn't want my first taste of independence to be shackled by rules. That night, I went to bed seething, feeling misunderstood, trapped, like the walls were closing in on the one dream I'd managed to claim for myself. I didn't know it then, but that conversation, the one I thought was just a disagreement, was really the first crack. A hairline fracture running silently through the foundation of everything we'd built. And the next morning, when he brought it up again with fear in his voice instead of anger, I realized something far worse. The fracture was growing. The morning after our argument felt thick, like the air itself was holding its breath. I woke up to the dull gray light of early winter slipping through the curtains, painting everything in a cold, muted palette. Anthony was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed with his shoulders slumped forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped like he was praying. Or bracing. For a moment, I just watched him. The rise and fall of his back. The quiet tremble in his exhale. Guilt flickered through me, sharp and brief, but I stamped it down. I reminded myself that wanting something for my own life shouldn't require shame. He didn't turn when he spoke. "We need to talk." Those 4 words always feel like a slow march toward execution. Still, I pulled myself up, tucking my knees to my chest beneath the sheets. My heartbeat rattled against my ribs. He finally faced me. His eyes looked tired in that deep, bone-heavy way that has nothing to do with sleep. "Is this trip, is it really about traveling?" he asked quietly. "Or is it about getting away from me?" That hit harder than I expected. Not because it was true, but because I could hear, beneath the insecurity, something like fear. Something like love twisted into a knot. "It's not about getting away from you," I said, softer than I intended. I need to find myself a little. I've been recovering and dependent and you think seeing other people will help you find yourself? His voice cracked on the last word. I opened my mouth, but the defensiveness rose again, unbidden. I'm not seeing other people. I just wanted us to talk about options, boundaries. I don't want to cheat. I wanted honesty. He laughed, a short, broken sound. You think I can sleep at night knowing some guy in Barcelona or London or wherever is touching you while you still call me your boyfriend? The way he said it, raw, wounded, made something inside me shrink. But another part of me bristled, the part that had spent months feeling like porcelain wrapped in bubble wrap, handled too carefully to ever feel alive. I don't even know if anything would happen, I argued. I just wanted the possibility, the freedom to not feel guilty for once in my life. His hand dragged down his face, and suddenly he looked older. Like this year aged him as much as it did me. Gabby, I supported you through everything. I stayed. I helped. I was there every damn day. And the moment you get your life back, the first thing you ask for is a way to keep me but remove the parts that inconvenience you. The words stung because they weren't a knife, they were a mirror. That's not fair, I whispered. Isn't it? He asked. Just tell me the truth. If I said no, really, firmly no, would you still go on your trip? Yes. The answer slipped out before I could soften it. A long silence settled between us. Heavy. Verdict-like. He swallowed hard. Then I guess I already lost. My breath caught. Anthony, no. You haven't. But he was already standing, moving to the kitchen. I followed him, my chest tightening. He leaned on the counter, palms flat, staring down at the speckled granite like it held the answers to our entire future. I'm scared, he finally admitted, voice barely audible. I'm scared that once you get a taste of freedom, you won't come back. His vulnerability twisted something warm and painful in me. I stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. I will come back. He looked up at me, eyes shining with something like hope and something like doubt. Promise? I hesitated. Just half a second. But it was enough. I saw it hit him. The way his face fell, slight but unmistakable. He didn't call me out. Didn't repeat the question. He just nodded slowly, like he'd received an answer even I hadn't spoken aloud. And in that quiet, fragile moment, I realized the truth I'd been fighting. This wasn't about open relationships, or rules, or freedom. This was about something breaking in real time, right in front of us. The days that followed moved strangely slow in the moments I wanted to speed through, fast in the moments I wanted to hold still. The trip loomed closer, only 2 weeks away now, and instead of feeling like an open horizon, it hovered over us like a storm cloud we kept pretending wasn't there. Anthony tried. God, he really tried. He'd cook dinner, ask about hostels, show me TikToks of cute cafes in Copenhagen like nothing had changed. But underneath every exchange was a soft, trembling question neither of us dared to say out loud. Are we still okay? I could feel him watching me more closely, studying the way I moved, the pauses in my breathing, the way my eyes drifted to my phone when I got hostile confirmation emails. I tried to pretend I didn't notice, but the truth was I saw all of it. Felt all of it. The tension gathered between us like static, waiting for the smallest touch to spark. One night, about a week before my flight, we were lying in bed, not touching, both staring at the ceiling. The kind of silence that feels like a third person. My suitcase sat open in the corner, half-packed, clothes spilling out like evidence of my departure. He spoke first. Can I ask you something? I turned my head slightly. Yeah. Why wasn't this enough? His voice was soft, almost childlike. Us. What we have. What I gave. Why wasn't it enough for you to not need more? The question felt like someone pressing on a bruise. Not malicious, but unavoidable. I shifted onto my side, facing him. His eyes glistened faintly in the dark. It was enough. But enough doesn't mean complete. His brow tightened. Complete for who? The truth thudded in my chest, heavy and real. For me. He inhaled sharply, the sound scraping like sandpaper. So I wasn't enough to make you feel whole? That's not what I'm saying, I said quickly. Then what are you saying, Gabby? Because every version of this conversation makes me feel like I'm losing you, slowly, piece by piece. I hated that I didn't have a clean answer. I hated that every road out of this led to hurt. But ignoring it made the tension worse. Ignoring it was already breaking us. I lost a year of my life, I whispered. A whole year. I felt trapped and small and fragile. And now that I can breathe again, I don't want to waste any more time. I want to see the world. I want to feel alive. I want to know who I am without anyone hovering over me. And you think I'm hovering, he said quietly. My silence was answer enough. He rolled onto his back, throwing an arm over his eyes. I was trying to protect you. I know, I said. But somewhere along the way, it stopped feeling like protection and started feeling like I belonged to you. His breath hitched. You don't. But it felt like I did. Those words hung in the air, heavy and irreversible. After a long moment, he spoke again, voice barely audible. Tell me the truth. When you're in Europe, are you planning to see other people? The question pierced the quiet like glass shattering. I don't know, I answered honestly. I just want to live without guilt. He lowered his arm and stared at me with an expression that made my stomach twist, something between grief and resignation. So that's it then? No, that's not. I get it now, he interrupted softly. You're already halfway gone. The words landed like a blow, sharp and clean. I shook my head, but before I could speak, he sat up, legs dangling off the bed, shoulders tense. Just give me a minute. His voice cracked. He walked out of the bedroom. For a few moments, I sat frozen in the dark, listening to the soft sounds of him pacing the hallway, then the creak of the kitchen floorboards. The faint clink of a glass. Water running. A shaky exhale. Part of me wanted to go to him. Wrap my arms around him. Reassure him even if the reassurance would have been a lie we both held onto like a flotation device. But another part, the part that had been silent too long, whispered. If I comfort him now, I'll lose myself again. So I stayed where I was, knees pulled to my chest, heart hammering like it wanted out. Minutes later, I heard footsteps returning. Slow. Deliberate. He paused in the doorway. Gabby, he said, voice hoarse, I need to ask you something. And I need you to answer honestly, even if it hurts. I looked up. His eyes were shining. Are you still in love with me? The room tilted. My breath faltered. Because for the first time since this all began, I wasn't sure of the answer. And he could see it on my face before I even spoke. I didn't answer him. Not because I didn't want to, but because the truth jammed somewhere between my ribs and my throat, unable to escape without breaking something, him, me, or the fragile thread still binding us together. He saw enough in my silence. His shoulders drooped, a slow collapse, like a structure finally giving under months of pressure. He didn't cry, not exactly. But the shine in his eyes deepened, and he blinked hard, as if holding back would somehow keep us from unraveling completely. Okay, he whispered, nodding once, as if confirming something to himself. Okay. I reached toward him instinctively. Anthony. It's fine, he said too quickly, shaking his head. I guess I needed to know. But it wasn't fine. Nothing about this was fine. The air felt bruised, punctured by words neither of us had the courage to fully say. The truth was swelling, pressing outward, and I could feel it in every inch of my body. He sat on the edge of the bed again, not looking at me this time. His hands clutched at the sheets like he needed to anchor himself. When did it change? He asked softly. Was it after the concussion? Was it when I started helping more? Was it when you felt better? What part of us stopped working? I don't know, I said, and it was the only honest answer I had. It wasn't one moment. It wasn't your fault. It just shifted. He let out a hollow laugh. Shifted. Like we're tectonic plates. Maybe we are. The silence between us thickened. My chest felt tight, too tight. I wanted to reach for him, to explain everything that was locked inside me, the exhaustion of being taken care of, the fear of never catching up to my own life, the hunger for something bigger than the walls of our apartment. But every explanation felt like another wound. I still love you, I said quietly. He inhaled sharply. But you're not in love with me. I opened my mouth, and again the hesitation was there, a split second of uncertainty, the smallest flicker of doubt. And again, he saw it. He closed his eyes. Jesus, Gabby. That hurt. Deeply. Ugly, twisting hurt. I'm sorry, I whispered. He shook his head. Don't apologize for your feelings. I wish you'd told me sooner. Or maybe I wish I'd seen it sooner. We sat in silence, breathing in the same room but living in entirely different worlds. Eventually, he stood. I think I need to take a walk. My throat tightened. Do you want me to come with you? He turned toward me with a softness that made something crack inside me. No, he said gently. I think that's exactly what you don't want. He grabbed his coat and stepped out the door. The moment it clicked shut behind him, the apartment felt cavernous. Strange. Lonely. As if his absence left an indentation in the air itself. And for the first time, I wondered if my desire for freedom was actually a desire to run from him, from the responsibility of what we had built, from the version of myself that felt too young and too scared to be someone's partner in the way he deserved. When he came back an hour later, the tension clung to him like cold rain. He hung his coat, moved quietly, mechanically, like someone underwater. Are you okay? I asked. He shrugged. Not really. I nodded, swallowing hard. He looked at me then, really looked. And something like resignation passed over his face. I think we need to talk about what happens before you leave. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? He exhaled slowly. Whether we're us. When you get on that plane. My pulse stuttered. I don't want to make you choose, he said. I don't want to cage you. But I also can't sit here waiting while you try to figure out if you still love me from another continent. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. And I can't pretend, he added, that I'm not terrified of what your version of freedom looks like. I stepped toward him. Anthony. He lifted a hand, not in anger, but in quiet plea. Please. Just think about it. Really think. My suitcase caught the corner of my eye then, half packed, half lived in, half dreamed. 3 things half formed, half finished. Just like us. And as he walked past me into the bedroom, leaving me alone with the weight of his question, I realized the truth was coming for me whether I wanted it or not. And I had 7 days left before I'd have to face it. The week before my flight unfolded like a countdown I hadn't agreed to. Every morning I woke with a tight knot low in my stomach, and every night I fell asleep replaying the same question Anthony left hanging in the air. Are we still us when you get on that plane? I didn't have an answer. I wasn't even sure which part of me was supposed to answer it, the version of me who loved him, or the version who wanted to run until the wind peeled something new out of my bones. Anthony moved around the apartment carefully, like everything he touched might shatter. He wasn't cold. He wasn't angry. If anything, he was too gentle, too patient, too resigned. And maybe that was the worst part. His quietness forced me to hear my own chaos louder. One afternoon, for days before departure, I came home to find him sitting on the couch with a stack of photos spread beside him. Us at the beach. Us at my graduation. Us laughing at some dumb joke neither of us would remember now. I froze in the doorway. His thumb dragged over one of the photos, me sitting on the hood of his car, sunset behind me, my head thrown back in laughter. God, I looked so young. So unbroken. I didn't even remember what he'd said to make me laugh like that. He looked up when he heard me. Do you ever miss her? He asked softly. My voice caught. Who? You, he said. The version you were before everything happened. I set my keys down slowly. Yeah, I do. He nodded like he expected that. I miss her too. I sank onto the opposite end of the couch. The photos between us felt like a timeline we'd lost the map for. Anthony. I'm trying, I said. I'm trying to figure out what I feel. Everything inside me is pulling in different directions. He studied me for a moment. Do you love me? I do. But are you in love with me? He asked again, the exact same question I'd failed before. My tongue felt thick, useless. I searched myself for the answer he wanted, some glowing certainty. But all I found was a restless ache. He exhaled, closing his eyes as if he already knew. Okay, he whispered. Something in that okay terrified me. It wasn't acceptance. It was surrender. He stood and began gathering the photos, carefully tucking them back into the envelope. I've been thinking, he said quietly, that maybe the kindest thing I can do for you is let you go. Really go. Without waiting. Without hoping. The floor dropped out beneath me. Anthony, no. He held up a hand, not to push me away, but to steady himself. I don't want to break up with you, Gabby. I don't. But I also don't want to be the guy clinging to someone who's halfway out the door. My throat tightened. I'm not halfway out. Gabby, he said gently, sadly, you're already packed. The words hit harder than I expected. Harder than I wanted them to. He sat again, elbows on his knees. I've been asking myself something, he continued. If you really wanted us, would you need this kind of freedom so badly? Would you even be questioning any of this? Tears pricked behind my eyes, not from guilt, but from the brutal clarity of his honesty. He wasn't trying to trap me. He was trying to understand. Maybe I'm scared of losing myself again, I whispered. And maybe, he said softly, you feel like being with me means you will. The silence that followed was raw, open, painful. Then he asked the question that burned the deepest. If we stay together while you're gone, are you going to resent me for it? My breath stopped. Because I didn't know. And he saw the uncertainty flicker across my face before I could hide it. He nodded slowly. That's what I thought. I covered my face with my hands, the weight of everything collapsing inward. I don't want to hurt you. You already are, he said gently. But it's not intentional. And that's why I'm trying so hard to listen. He moved closer, the space between us shrinking, but not disappearing. His voice cracked as he spoke the next words. I just need you to tell me before you leave. Am I waiting for you, or am I letting you go? My pulse hammered so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. I looked at him, really looked, and felt the truth closing in around me from all directions. I had 3 days before my flight. 3 days before everything changed. And the terrifying part was, I still didn't know which choice would save me or destroy us. 3 days. That was all the time left before the airport swallowed me and spat me out onto a different continent, different sky, different air, different version of myself. And each hour felt like it tugged another loose thread in me, unraveling something I'd been holding together too tightly for too long. Anthony and I moved around each other quietly, like people living in the aftermath of an earthquake, both afraid to step in the wrong spot in case the ground cracked open again. He still made coffee for me in the mornings. I still handed him the remote at night. We were functioning, but not living. Tethered by habit, not certainty. On the second to last night, we had dinner with friends, something we'd committed to weeks before. I debated canceling, but Anthony insisted we go. It'll be good for us, he said, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. We sat at a small Italian place downtown, candles flickering in little glass cups, the smell of basil and wine drifting through the air. Our friends were loud, warm, completely unaware of the quiet battle happening beneath the table between our stolen glances and the distance in our hands. Halfway through the evening, someone asked, "So, you two excited for the trip?" Anthony's fork paused midair. My stomach tightened. I forced a smile. Yeah, it'll be good. Anthony just nodded politely. Our friends didn't notice the way his jaw tightened. They didn't see the way my chest constricted, like guilt had wrapped fingers around my lungs. All they saw was a couple talking about a long-distance adventure, not the fracture lines hidden beneath the conversation. When we got home, the silence followed us in like an unwelcome guest. He closed the door gently. You seemed far away tonight. I kicked my shoes off slowly. I felt far away. From me? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He sat on the arm of the couch, a posture I'd always recognized as him trying to hold himself together. We can't keep pretending nothing's happening, he said quietly. It's hurting us both. I know. Then talk to me, he pleaded softly. Please. I sank onto the couch, pulling a throw pillow against my chest like armor. My voice shook. I don't know how to choose between you and myself. He exhaled, a sound full of both pain and understanding. I'm not asking you to choose between me and the trip. I'm asking whether we survive the trip. I stared down at my hands. I don't want to break up. But you also don't want to stay, he said, not accusatory, just true. I looked up sharply. That's not fair. Then tell me I'm wrong. My mouth opened. Nothing came out. His eyes softened, but the sorrow behind them deepened. Gabby, loving someone shouldn't feel like a cage. It doesn't. Then why do you look like you're suffocating every time we talk about us? My breath trembled. Because I don't know who I am without you. And I'm scared to find out. He moved closer, sitting beside me but not touching. And I'm scared that once you do find out, you'll realize you don't want me anymore. Tears stung my eyes. Anthony. He shook his head gently. No. Listen. I love you. Enough to stay. Enough to fight. But I also love you enough to let you go if that's what you need. The room blurred. I don't want to lose you. He reached out, not to pull me close, but to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. It was tender. Familiar. Heartbreaking. You can't keep me just because you're afraid. My breath hitched. Do you want to break up? No, he said instantly, fiercely. God, no. I want us. I want you. But I don't want to be waiting here holding my breath while you're finding yourself across the world. The quiet stretched between us, taut as wire. Then he whispered the question I'd been running from, the one that held every truth we'd buried. Gabby, when you think about your future, honestly, do you see me in it? The room tilted. My heart seized. Because I didn't know. And before I could even try to form an answer, he looked at me with fear and hope tangled together and said, Please, just tell me the truth. His voice cracked. And I felt something inside me crack with it. Because the truth was rising, unstoppable, and it terrified me. And I knew the next words out of my mouth would change everything. The truth sat on my tongue like something burning, too hot to hold, too dangerous to release. Anthony's eyes were fixed on me, wide and pleading, and for a moment I wished I could lie. Not out of cruelty, but out of mercy. Out of love for who we were, who we had been, who he still was to me in all the places I didn't want to examine too closely. But lies have a weight. And we were already drowning. I don't know, I whispered. The silence that followed wasn't sharp. It wasn't explosive. It was soft. Devastatingly soft. Like a snowbank collapsing under its own quiet heaviness. Anthony's expression didn't twist in anger or disappointment. Instead, something inside him seemed to quietly fold. A subtle, almost invisible heartbreak. Not a shatter, just a slow, painful cracking. He nodded. Once. Twice. Then again, as if confirming it to himself. Okay, he murmured, voice thin. Thank you for being honest. Tears pricked my eyes. I didn't say I don't see you in my future. I said I don't know yet. I know, he said, and somehow that hurt even more. And that's the part that tells me everything. He stood, rubbing his palms against his jeans. I watched him, the room blurring around the edges. It felt like witnessing someone pack away their hope piece by piece, quietly, gently, because the alternative would hurt too much. He walked to my half-packed suitcase in the corner. He crouched, ran a hand lightly over the fabric. You're going to have an incredible trip, he said softly. I want that for you. Anthony, please don't talk like. Like what? He asked, looking back at me. Like I'm not the ending to your story right now? My breath caught. He stood again, taking a long, steadying breath. Gabby, if we stay together, if we force this, your trip becomes a test you didn't sign up for. Every moment you're laughing or exploring or dancing somewhere new, you'll be wondering if you're disappointing me. And I'll be here wondering if I'm losing you inch by inch. I shook my head, tears slipping free. I don't want to lose you. And I don't want to lose myself waiting, he said, voice thick. He moved back to the couch and sat across from me, not beside me, like we'd already begun the separation without naming it. His hands clasped together tightly, knuckles pale. I think, he said slowly, painfully, that the most loving thing we can do is let go before we break each other beyond repair. The words landed like a blow to the chest. I couldn't breathe for a moment. We don't have to do this. He gave a trembling smile. We do. Because if you stayed out of fear or guilt, we'd be building our future on cracks. And I'd rather lose you now than lose the version of you who's meant to grow into something extraordinary. My throat closed. I still love you. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to mine for a brief, aching second. I love you too, he whispered. That's why I'm doing this. A choked sound escaped me. I didn't reach for him, not because I didn't want to, but because I knew if I did, neither of us would be able to walk away. He pulled back, eyes shining. Go live, Gabby. Go find yourself. Not for me. For you. I wiped at my cheeks. And what about you? He swallowed hard. I'll heal. We sat like that, two people who weren't enemies, who weren't failures, who weren't villains. Just two souls whose timelines stopped fitting together, no matter how tightly we tried to hold the edges. Finally, he stood. I'll sleep on the couch tonight, he murmured. We'll talk about moving things tomorrow. I nodded, unable to speak. He hesitated in the doorway, turning back one last time. I hope, he said softly, that when you look back on us, it's with warmth, not regret. I opened my mouth, but no words came. He walked away. Like and subscribe.